Hi, I'm Scott Clark. I've been retired about 5.5 years, and boy, am I busy.
Hey there. Welcome to the Redirect Podcast. This is where we dive into real conversations, share stories, and just hang out talking about finding our purpose in retirement. We're glad you're along for the ride, and let's get into it. Curt, Dale, in the studio again. Another great episode in front of us. Can't wait to get after it, to get our creative juices flowing, a little bit of a conversation starter. Since I'm the only guy still working, working for the man, trying to keep me down, I don't have a lot of perspective on what it's going to be like for retirement and all of this time that I'm going to have. What are you guys doing with all of this glorious time that you have to do whatever you want?
This season that I'm in now, some of the things I'm doing. In a given week, I'll go to the gym twice and do an hour and a half to 2 hour workout, okay, at some point in the week. It's not a set date. It's just going to happen. I'm involved with 3 different Bible study groups. I got one on Monday night, a Tuesday night, and then a Thursday morning. So that's a regular thing in my routine. I'm involved with La Soup as far as delivering food from La Soup to various places in the city. I do 2 of those a week. I'm involved with Kids Club on Sunday morning at church to sort of help watch the 2nd and 3rd graders, which I really, really love. And I'm now in this season of spring, I'm at Naintorp's, and I'm there 3 days a week, pretty much all day from like 9:30 in the morning until 5:30. And, of course, it's the Redirect Podcast. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday is sort of, doing stuff that I have to do for the podcast and fitting in. We have our weekly meetings. And then every now and then we'll get into the studio and do recordings. So on a weekly basis, I guess I've got a pretty good lineup of things that keep me occupied, keep me stimulated, and are things that I really enjoy.
Do you feel like you have that in balance? Is that where you want to be? Are you too busy? Do you have too much time still?
It's too early to tell in this particular season that I'm in right now, but we'll see how things go. But I'm looking forward to this season, and then at the end of it or during it, we'll evaluate and see what we need to tweak in order to make sure that it's going as I want it to go.
How about you, Dale?
This is the challenge of following Curt. Lordy. I'm tired just listening to that.
Is there a lot of naps in your story here?
Yeah, it starts with a big nap on Sunday that goes right into Monday. I will say, in retrospect, and people have been asking a lot, in my first year of redirection, I really did not want to commit to anything on a regular weekly basis. I wanted to have the freedom to be able to do what I wanted and find out where I'm really comfortable, because I can look back on my first year and know that I spent a lot of time with this Redirect Podcast. It's been a big deal. It's always in my mind, because we're trying to find the right guests to come on, and we got great ones today as usual. I'm a grandpa, and on top of the redirection, I get up every morning and my routine has become, hey, I remind myself of my purpose. I do my journaling, and that becomes a regular routine, and then I remind myself that I'm serving God, my family, and my community. And what am I going to do that day to do that? So my week looks like the Redirect Podcast, being a grandparent. I'm learning how to play better golf. I'm learning how to play banjo. These are things that I wanted and loved to do, and I've started writing a children's book about kind of a legacy thing, but how do I tell stories to my grandkids and grandkids' about, who I was, and found that I could do this through a children's book about why my body and bones creak. And I call it, Why Does Pops Grunt? Because I do a lot of grunting. But on top of that, I've maintained a lot of connections with some of the nonprofits, CityLink, as well as Undivided, and in finding my way to figure out which ones do I want to actually commit a day to or 2 days a week. And that's been honestly a struggle, just to give up that time. But
so I think what I'm hearing, and it's interesting, is you've kept yourself, I don't want to say busy, because you've kept yourself active. You've kept
engaged.
yourself
I like the word engaged.
That's a great word. Thank you. So you guys have kept yourself engaged, but you've traded 40 plus hours a week working for the man to a diverse menu of things that you choose to be engaged with. And, it's a whole bunch of things. It's not just, hey, I'm going to trade 40 hours at this for 40 hours of that. You've kind of spread that out to your multifaceted interests.
And
correct?
The beauty of it all is you can say no at any time.
Nice. To any one thing or a whole bunch of things.
Exactly.
That's
So
great.
when you hear this, Adam, how do you feel? What do you start thinking about in your pre-retirement phase?
I would say that idea of that multifaceted, multi-outlet thing is really interesting to me. The flexibility of being able to say no to certain things. I did like what you said, Curt, about the season. Like for this particular spring season, you're engaged in a certain extra thing that might not be true in 3 months. That kind of thing is interesting to me. So, yeah, I'm encouraged by all this as opposed to not having to find one great big thing that's going to redefine my purpose. Maybe my engagement is multifaceted, so I'm encouraged by that.
Something to think about, as we've mentioned in the previous podcast, is that while you're in this time of still working for the man, as you say, test drive.
Yeah. Yeah, I've heard you say that.
I heard you say when we had Nick Francis on from Scrap to Home, and you're a woodworking guy. Well, have you done anything on that? Have you gone to the website? Have you gone to the volunteer? Because you can do that on a weekend. You don't have to do that during the week, And so it's the idea of expose yourself to things that you feel interest towards, and then give it a test drive to see if that's something you want to jump into, either while you're working to prepare, because there's nothing wrong with expanding your community. And then when that time comes, you've got a file of things like, I like this, I like that, I like this, and off I go.
Totally. I agree with the idea of kicking the tires on things, and I think as my time allows, I'm going to totally jump into extracurriculars like that. Curt, why don't you introduce us to our guest?
Thank you very much, Adam. Yes, today's friend of the Redirect Podcast is a very good friend of all of us here at the table. Scott Clark, we know from our Thursday morning Bible study and a variety of other activities that we've been engaged with him. My story with him is Scott was one of the first persons that I met as I moved to Cincinnati here in 2021. We had a situation at church where they were talking about small groups, and I walked downstairs because I needed to get connected, met Scott, and he started talking to me about, Mighty Men. He started talking to me about MOG and got me engaged. And as a result of him being that first guy, I was sort of like the puppy around him for a while. And, hey, Scott, I'm here. And, oh, good, Curt. Nice to have lunch. Let me introduce you to some people and all that.
That's a terrible impression of Scott.
Well, it'll be. But what was really cool about that is that I had a chance to chat with him because at the time he had just left his employment. He retired early. He worked for Cintas Corporation for, I think, about 29 years or something like that.
Almost 30.
And I was saying, okay, Scott, I'm in this discernment process right now of making that decision. How do I go? How did you come about with that? What were some things that you found? How did you feel? Boom, 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 all these questions. And he's like, have you set a date? And I'm like, no. He says, well, you got to set a date. Otherwise, that date's never going to come. And I'm like, So from that point forward, I started connecting with him and he would check with me. Hey, have you set a date yet? And that really got me going to the point of where I made the decision. And then through these conversations, I've had conversations with him like, hey, how are you dealing with all this stuff? He says, I'm all over the place. I'm doing this. I'm more busy now than I've ever been. And it's true. But then he also found out a lot of things from that, which we're going to talk about today. So, Scott, welcome to the Redirect Podcast.
Thanks, Curt. Thanks. I like that introduction and some of the conversation. The one thing we talked about is going from a 40-plus hour a week job to retirement and what are you going to do? And I always tell people it's like that's what I had to do. Now I get to do what I want to do. And, I also sit back and go, how in the heck did I get anything done? I'm so busy right now. I mean, how did I do it when I was working full time? But you talk about setting a date, and I did that. And also, you also said retired early, which I always say, 60. I'm not sure that I consider that early retirement. Not sure how I came up with the date or the time I was going to retire, but I did, and I did set that date, and I actually went out and bought a countdown clock that which good and bad, but I set it for the countdown to that date, which mine was August 30th of 2020, and it sat on my credenza. And some days I would look at that thing and I would tap it because I don't know that it was going fast enough.
That was the bad.
Shaking the hourglass.
That was the bad. I was wondering about what the bad was.
Yeah, that was the bad. But everybody in the office knew I had it. They'd stop by and rib me a little bit about it. It's like, man, how many days is that? Can you even count that high? But I also felt it was important for me to set that date with my employer because they had been very good to me. I wanted to make sure that we had time that when I left them in the best shape possible. That worked out really well. I had somebody in my department that I was molding to be able to step into my role and take over, and she's done a fabulous job there. She was much better in certain areas than I ever was, but she was a little rough around the edges, so that was my goal, is to get her set and ready so that when I left, she could step right in and everything would go smoothly.
Give us a little time frame around that. When you first said, my gosh, I'm thinking about retirement, about when was that and maybe why was that? And then secondly, you've talked a little bit about kind of some of the stuff you did, but mentally, you, Scott the person, what were you thinking about in that time frame, whatever that was?
Yeah, I try to think back, and it could have been 2.5 or more years in advance. Like I said, 60 stuck in my head, and I'm a numbers person, so I'm like, well, that's a nice round number. Let's shoot for that. So the important thing too, though, is I had to have that discussion with my wife because things were going to be changing. She has her own company. She works out of the house. So I'd get up early in the morning and I'd leave and I'd be gone all day. And then I'd come home in the evenings. Now, suddenly, when I retire, I'm going to be around the house all day, and so is she. And is that going to work out okay?
Congratulations, I'm here.
Yeah.
You won me.
Look at me. What are you doing?
The best retirement gift of all, me.
But
so she went out and bought a retirement clock for herself. Sorry.
So let's crunch some numbers.
Yeah.
When is he going to get out of the house? Okay, sorry.
No, that's fine. And in reality, it actually worked out really well. She being how does she put it? Solo entrepreneur. Yeah.
Solopreneur.
There you go.
Solopreneur.
So and working from our home, she said, there are a lot of times if she's not going down to the design center, she has her own interior design business, or going to a client, she's at home by herself, and she said, it gets lonely if you're not out and about and with people. And for me, I'm like, I'm at the office. I see people all the time. So in that respect, she was kind of looking forward to it. There was going to be somebody around, and it worked out well. I would sit out in the breakfast room and piddle around on the computer while she was back in her office and working. We'd pass each other in the kitchen as we grabbed something to eat.
At the water cooler?
At the water cooler, yeah. We'd have a little conversation. She would leave to go on a client, or I would, as we'll talk a little bit, I would be leaving to do one of my volunteer operations. So it really meshed well for us. So that was important, that, me being home all the time wasn't going to be a problem for her. So I think she looked forward to it. I did. And, everything just kind of fell into place. And I start to look back on that time period, and it's interesting how a number of things just basically kept telling me, yes, this is the right thing to do and this is the right time. When I decided to retire, I was not going to meet the company's minimum retirement age for vesting in a lot of things, but I felt that's fine. I put this over my vesting. But down the road, before it happened, the company had amended that policy, and suddenly I was going to be covered. I'm like, ding,
Beautiful.
check that box.
Beautiful.
Perfect.
Wow.
Yeah.
Another little thing that happened was about 1.5 years before that date, I found myself in the hospital. And they were determining whether or not stents in my heart were going to work or not, or I'm going to be split open and have bypass. They determined that my widowmaker was 99.5% blocked. My cardiologist, when they went in to talk to my wife after the procedure, basically said, I'm not 100% sure how he hadn't had a massive heart attack. So I'm like, I guess God thinks it's not my time to go yet, so he's giving me a second chance. So, again, that whole thing of, man, I've worked so hard for so long, I don't want to miss out on enjoyment of retirement.
So, looking back, hindsight, is there anything that as you got into your time from career that you said, I wish I would have done this in order to prepare better for it?
Because I made that decision so far in advance, I had a lot of time to prep. And actually, we were talked earlier about, testing the waters. And so back to 2012, we started at Crossroads, and we're there for a couple weeks. And I remember walking out of one of the services and my wife looking at me saying, you need to join a men's group. And I'm like, why do I need to join a men's group? I'm fine. I got guys at work I hang out with. So, no, I really think you need to do that. So I went online, or actually I think I went out to their information center and looked up and found that they only had really about one men's group. It's Men's Ongoing, and it met on Thursday morning at 6:30 in the morning. And I'm like, oh, man, that just means I got to get up even earlier now. But I did, and I'd get up earlier, get ready to go to work, drive in there, and I'd sit there. And it was a group of about 15 guys, and they talked a lot. They all read the Bible. They seemed very knowledgeable, and that was not me. At that point in time, I probably had really not read the Bible much, if any. Was probably considered an agnostic. Wasn't sure I believed a lot of it. And most of what they were talking about most of the time just went right over my head. But I stuck with it. I tend to be that way. And I'd show up every Thursday morning for probably 3 months. And finally, at the end of the one meeting, I just had to say, hey, guys, I just want to let you know, I don't read the Bible much. I don't really understand a lot of what you're talking about. I don't even know if I believe a lot of it. And the gentleman who was running it at the time looked at me and said, that's fine. We're just glad you showed up. And, we all have questions.
Oh, that's so awesome.
Yeah. And that just let me then go, okay, then it's not bad if I have to sit there and say, well, I don't understand that. How can you believe that? And that really helped me start to grow on that part of it.
I think it's a transitional moment when you realize it's okay to ask God questions.
Yes.
It's okay to be confused. It's okay to wonder why he would have done something a certain way and why is the Bible written that way. Almost be critical of the Bible. Mm-hmm. I think that's healthy in maturation for Christians.
It is. And the thing is, I tell people that I'm still with the group now 13 years later, but over time, there have been times when I've told that story in our group, and inevitably, at the end of the meeting, somebody will come up to me and go, man, I'm glad you said that, because I was thinking the same thing, but I didn't want to say anything. I'm like,
that's great.
I think this would be a good time to take a quick break. If you're enjoying our show, we'd be incredibly grateful if you could take a moment to comment. And if you like what you're hearing, leave us a 5-star review. Your feedback not only makes our day, but helps other listeners discover our content. Your support through listening, sharing, following, and reviewing means the world to us and helps our podcast grow. Thanks so much for being part of the Redirect family. So let's now get back to our conversation. I think that's something that happens a lot with men's groups. Men don't want to do this because they don't think they're going to fit or they don't know enough, and it's a fallacy. There's so many guys in there with same stories, and you find out just being vulnerable. It's a really good thing, to connect, and certainly in this season of our life.
Yeah, and as Curt, you were saying, how you found out about it was one of the small group meetings that they do in the atrium, and I've been involved with that to help direct people. The thing is that most of the time it's a wife who comes up and asks me about it, saying my husband really needs this. He
Just
needs
like
that
Kelly
community.
did for you.
Exactly.
Made you a play date.
They need play dates.
So let me go back. So here you are. You just got out of work. You're helping Kelly, I would imagine, with her business to a
Yes.
degree, wherever you could fit in. She's the boss. And then you found this Bible study that you transitioned to because you were still doing that when you were working. So that first, 3 months of being out on your own, what was your schedule like?
So I had the Thursday morning group already, and actually prior to that, I had started volunteering through different venues with Crossroads. I'd always thought about doing that, but I never had that opportunity. And the times that I did, it was kind of a one and done thing, and just wasn't very fulfilling. So I had looked into some other volunteer opportunities. One of them that came up was the homeless shelter, the City Gospel Mission's homeless shelter. Crossroads is down there every Friday, other than the first Friday of the month, and they cook and serve dinner to the people that are living in the homeless shelter and across the street in the recovery program. And that was one of the first things that I had signed up to try. I'm like, sounds easy. I can just be part of the crowd. I can blend in. How hard is it to take a plate of food to somebody and sit it down in front of them? And so the first time we went down there, and this was back when it was still over in the area close to Washington Park, and it was dark out down back alley, came in the back of the building, and I'm like, man,
that was a sketchy place back there.
It was. And I'm going, what the heck did I sign up for? Walked in there, bright and everything, and I'm like, not bad. So they were giving us the lowdown on how the evening went, and she was the woman who was leading at the time was saying how we were going to serve. And I'm like, perfect. I can fit right in with this group of volunteers, and I can serve, and I can just do that and then sit back and watch. She suddenly looked at me and said, I want you to go out and mingle with the crowd, with the guests here, and talk with them. And I'm like, man, did you pick the wrong person? That is not me. I'm an introvert, and honestly, at that time, I've told people my attitude toward the homeless and the people that were there was not very good.
It's really judgmental.
Yeah, I was very judgmental, and so I did, and lo and behold, I found I kind of like doing that, and I've been doing it ever since. In fact, I lead the folks that come down to serve. I found that I can't be there every Friday night, so I have a team of people that can help. But we always encourage that once everybody has been served their meal, feel free to grab a plate, sit down, and have conversation with these folks. I mean, that's where the transformation, that's where I get more out of it probably than the people that I'm serving. And I think a lot of other people do too. So I had that. Like you said, I was also helping my wife as an accountant. I was keeping the books for her. I was able to get more involved with it so that I could get better reports out for her so she knew how her business was going. She let me buy a truck, so then I got to be able to go and help deliver product for her. And so that was really working out well. I even learned how to do 2D and 3D renderings of her clients' rooms so that they could see how things were going to lay out with her plan. So that was fun. I got to be a little bit more involved there. And then I had heard about a group called Mighty Men, and I liked the aspect that it was a service-oriented. I really like doing service, and I like being physical type of things where I'm in front of people and I'm actually seeing the people I'm serving. It's great to give money to something, but if you never see how it impacts somebody, it's kind of hollow for me. So
if I can interject, for our listeners, that Mighty Man reference, you can go back a few episodes to the episode with Dave Hammerstrom and kind of get the lowdown on that. But please continue.
Yeah. So I enjoyed that. It's another group of men about the same age that I was. So we had a lot of similarities. And again, it's that community with guys where you can talk about anything and you realize I'm not that much different. People are going through the same things that I'm going through, and they can really help you out there. But they did a regular bed delivery for St. Vincent de Paul on the fourth Saturdays. And what it is you go down, and it's people that need beds but have no way of transporting them. And so we go down there and get a group of guys down there with our trucks, which my truck came in handy to have at that time. And we load up the beds. We head out to all parts of the city, deliver these beds, and typically we'll grab lunch afterwards and solve a few world problems. But again, it's eye-opening to see the need that we have right in our own backyard. I mean, some of the places that we were going into to drop these beds off, that may be the only piece of furniture they have in there, and and it really gets you when you see kids in those situations. But there is a big need for people just in the Cincinnati area here.
So opportunities are making themselves available to you. You're open to them.
Mm-hmm.
The first one with the City Gospel, the mission, wow, for you personally, that was a really big change, but that just opened you up for a lot of other opportunities because you knew you could be comfortable with people that previously.
Yes, exactly.
Now they're coming in more and more. Are you starting to think about overcommitting?
I have, because after that, I also was talking with somebody in our Thursday morning group who did Meals on Wheels deliveries. And I'm like, that sounds fun. So I jumped in on that, and now I have a Meals on Wheels route. Like I had said before, since I kind of lead some of the people down at City Gospel, every Friday night I was like, okay, I can't do this every Friday night and still do everything else and still have time for my family and relaxation and golf on Tuesday mornings. So, yeah, I have thought about that a lot. I have actually backed off on some other things that I had been involved in and said, I just can't do this one. And I really feel, for me, if what I'm doing ever becomes more about me than the people I'm serving, that's going to be a problem, and I'm going to have to step away. Or if I'm not enjoying it or having fun, because I think a lot of times, especially down at City Gospel, the rapport you have with these people and things of that nature, if I've just got an attitude about it, I need to step away. And so when those things happen, I will probably have to reconsider and step back from
recalibrate that.
Yeah.
And that attitude change is just something that you feel internally is not a good use of your time.
No, exactly. It's important to me that the people that I'm serving, I'm doing it for them and not for me. I've found myself that sometimes when I go through my laundry list of, I do this, I go back, I step back and I go, gosh, that's starting to sound a little bit more about me and that pride thing. And I'm like, that's not going to be good. So I got to be very careful about that I don't make it more about me than about the people I'm serving.
Yeah, being about you, though, I get it. It's where your heart is. But I think you are a phenomenal example of somebody who is making very good use of their time in doing things that they want to do, that you want to do, that fills you for one reason or another. And it sounds like over time you've been able to set margins. That I still want to be involved with this, but I'm not going to do it all. I'm going to do a part of it.
Yeah.
When we sat down for our preview conversation, I asked you, I said, so right now today, Scott, how many things are you involved with? And you said, let's go through the list. And we've talked about them. You're helping your wife. All right, you're at MOG on Thursdays. You're at Mighty Men. You're at City Gospel. You play golf on Tuesdays. You do Meals on Wheels. You're a grandfather. All right. You do coffee with your neighbors.
Yeah.
You go to the gym 3 times a week.
I do.
Also at Crossroads Church, you are volunteering in various things that may happen. You're on the Family Connect team. You're on the baptism team. You're on the communion team. You're on the Connect team. You're on the Real Marriage team. You're on the Freed Up Financial team.
See,
hey, guess what? Guess what, Dale?
geez.
Dale, he's making me tired now.
And I'm passed out on the floor.
So how are you cutting back?
Well, that's what I say. It's like, how did I get anything done when I was working with all the stuff that I've got going on? And
So let me ask you the same question I asked Curt a little while ago. Do you feel like you have that in balance? You're engaged in the things you want to be engaged in, or you have a good handle on that and you're thriving and fulfilled?
I feel it's pretty good balance. I am also my wife and I are in 2 couple small groups. And we just had a meeting last night with one of the groups, and that one we had said, well, we'll meet every other week instead of weekly on Thursday evenings. But then they started talking, I think we should meet every Thursday. And I'm sitting there going, oh, my gosh. And this past week, I had something every single night, and I like my downtime. I like this is going to sound ridiculous, but I like when 7 o'clock comes around and I can watch Wheel of Fortune.
Heck yeah, that and Jeopardy.
That and Jeopardy.
Yeah,
that's my down hour. It's
my
like,
wife doesn't like it. I'm like, let's do it, babe. Let's get dinner cleaned up. Let's go.
Yeah,
so good.
TV dinner.
So good to feel how much smarter you are than they are. That's a great show for that.
So, yeah, and right now I think the schedule works out well. Also with my wife, because again, she still has her job. She loves it. She has been talking about retirement. I think when that time comes, I think a lot of things are going to change because my focus will be more with her and us. And we like to travel. I don't like cold weather, so that could mean a number of weeks out of the Cincinnati area during the winter times. And if that's the case, then a number of these things I'm not going to be able to be there to do. So that may change all that. But right now, it's great. I mean, I really enjoy it. I enjoy everything that I do. And it keeps me out of trouble.
How have you grown as far as where you were in Cintas to where you are now? What are some things that really pushed you, challenged you, and you've grown from?
I considered myself an introvert. I still think I'm an introvert. And in the past, that has caused problems. I was not one who, in a social situation, felt comfortable going up and talking to somebody. So I would stand there and be quiet. And my wife would point out later, it's like, people thought you were upset about something or mad about something. I'm like, no, nobody wanted to talk to me. So I think that has kind of gone away a little bit. I feel more comfortable going up to people, even people I don't know, and introducing myself and talking and trying to find out a lot about them. My whole idea is I want to know about you, and hopefully from that they want to know about me, and that has a conversation. I've become much more earthquake, I think.
Oh wow!
I think I would consider myself very critical and skeptical in my earlier days. I think working with the people at City Gospel Mission and like I said, sitting down and talking to these people, realizing that I was basically one bad decision away from being exactly where they are. I spoke with men who are college degreed, had great jobs, families, and they made one or two bad decisions that sent them spiraling down. They lost their job. The family leaves them. Suddenly they're on the street. And I remember one guy saying, I could never imagine that I would be sleeping under a bridge. And I was like, wow. And it just one bad decision.
Well, I wonder if some of the development of that empathy is particularly the things you got yourself engaged with in City Gospel Mission and serving and sitting down with people living in a homeless shelter. Mm-hmm. Then you got yourself engaged additionally with Mighty Men organization, where you're taking beds into people's homes who obviously are some kind of under-resourced that they need such a benefit. And then you're doing also Meals on Wheels, where you're going into people's homes that are struggling to make their own way, and you're taking those things to them. So I mean,
but that's also more of a relationship thing as opposed to just dropping off food.
Oh, I understand completely.
You sit down and get to know these people, and it's regular.
Yeah. This is my point. I think you put yourself in positions, in a multiple of positions, where you're engaged, like face to face, one on one, with people that aren't really living like you were living.
Yes, and that is so true. But that's what I like about it. I like about it that it's repeatable, as you said. I mean, that's what I like to have. I want it to be able to do
your personality type.
Week in and week out, or monthly on the beds. I like that interaction. For me, if I can do something that brings a smile to somebody's face, just even for 5 minutes, that's all I need. I want to make sure that they're getting what they need. And I see it more and more. I'm also part of the Meals on Wheels program. They now have another program called Swipe and Dine, which is for senior people who have mobility, can get out of the house, but don't have a reason to. And so they start to isolate and become very lonely. And that's becoming an epidemic in the country. This program provides them an opportunity with a card to go out and have a meal at various restaurants with them, with other people, to get out of the house, because I think I just subbed for somebody on the meals route, and it was not one of my regular clients. But I went there and I dropped off the box. I said hi, how are things going, and you could tell this gentleman lived by himself, probably doesn't get out very much. I walked back to the truck and I had forgotten something, so I grabbed it and I walked back in there, and I dropped it off and I said, "Have a great day." And he said, "Well, could you help me? My TV's not working." And I'm like, "Okay, I'll take a look at it." And I was trying his remotes and I couldn't get it off and I couldn't get it back on. And I saw the little box that I have on my TV. I'm like, well, when all else fails, I just go up and unplug something. Mm-hmm. Wait 15 seconds.
We learned that from IT back in the work world, didn't we? Did you turn it off and turn it back on?
Exactly.
Kick it again. Oh, reboot it. Never mind.
Reset.
And so I did it, and it came back on, and I fiddled around with the remote, got his TV back on. And he said, "Thank you." And I left there going, man, I don't know how many people he sees throughout the week, if anybody checks in on him. He's stuck there in his house because he probably doesn't. And if he doesn't have that TV, which is probably one of his only outlets to
companionship,
mm-hmm. and it just like, man, that just hit me.
I love the growth that you talk about. I mean, that's big, and where you are now, it sounds like those opportunities you make for yourself, you see your own personal growth in all this is, also is what you're being able to give back. Going forward, are you going to look for more opportunities, or are you just at a place where, if I did this is where I'm going to continue to grow? The question is the growth part. Mm-hmm. Will you continue to grow? Do you feel like the growth are those interactions that you have, or are there more things that you really kind of want to look forward to do?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think a lot is going to be dependent on when my wife decides to really, hang it up and say, I'm done. I know she struggles right now because she's in that boat of, what am I going to do with all that extra time? I need to fill that time. It's probably going to morph more when she does that as to what does she like to do, what do we like to do, and still be able to help others, in that type of thing.
So growth together.
Yes.
I mean, that's a really cool concept.
Yeah, and that's the thing. We just came out of this journey, and my run thing was to be a better husband for my wife, to be that person that she wants and needs. And I do that because I want to be a great example to my kids as to what a marriage can be. I've been, we're going to be celebrating 40 years here this year. And it's not been, all unicorns and rainbows. And so we've struggled a lot. We've been able to get past that. I think both of us going now to Crossroads, and I gave my life over to Christ back in 2016. My wife actually baptized me in the big pool up on stage.
That's awesome.
Wow.
I was a little concerned that she might think that she had to hold me under a little bit longer to really make sure it took.
Let's test
She
it.
said I could have the whole house to myself.
But and that whole thing has changed me also. I mean, it's like I said, I think that's taken away a little bit of that criticism, that skepticism and things that I had, and softened my heart toward others.
So you mentioned how you're engaged in Crossroads.
Mm-hmm.
That's a local church for those who are listening abroad. That organization and the other things that you're plugged into, you've got things that are building into you as an individual, her as an individual, and building into you as a couple. And so that's got to have a dynamic force on pushing you two together as it's pushing you both towards the Lord, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, definitely. Like one of the things that we do is we're facilitators for a class called Real Marriage, and this is a 9-week course that goes through, and it's for people that are on the verge of divorce, to people that feel like they're really roommates with their spouse, to people that are like, we got a good marriage, but I think it could be better. And we've been doing that for a number of years, and it seems like every time that class is over, we've learned something a little bit more, and something to
you
make
two are closer.
Yeah, our marriage better.
You started off in a lot of things that you wanted to do as the volunteer. Over time, because of the character that you are, the person that you are, you've elevated yourself to now become the leader of a lot of these things. You are a part of the leading team for MOG. You're a part of the leading team for City Gospel. You're a part of the leading team for Mighty Men, and the list goes on and on and on. Is there a pressure now on you that you feel obligated because you're in the leadership role within these volunteer things that I can't let them down, so I've got to stay here? Or are you okay with saying, I'm done? And then all of a sudden, everybody that you're working with in those organizations say, how are we going to find another Scott? How do you feel about that?
It's very similar to my career. I started with the company, and like I said, it was almost 30 years, but I started the company as a single person in their tax function. They had nobody. I came in as the sole tax person. I built the department. I built it up as the company grew. It was very successful. When I decided to retire, I didn't want to just say, I'm done and I'm out. I'm going to give you time because I want to leave you in the best possible shape that I can. But I think my time has come that I can't be as beneficial to you. So I would see in my other organizations that I'm part of that it could get to that point. It's not there quite yet, but it could get to that point where I'm like, I have to
set a
away.
date.
Yeah, I'm going to set a date. I'll go dig out my old my countdown clock and I'll give it to him and say, here it is. This is how much time you got, and I'm gone. So you better start.
This isn't for me. It's for you.
It's not about me. It's all about you.
But you did such a good job of prepping in your career to do that.
Yeah.
What a great asset that is to have in all of these functions too.
Yeah, but again, my employer treated me so well, so that's why I did not want to leave them in a lurch. These organizations that I'm part of, and I have actually kind of stepped back from some of the things. I'm not out in front as much. I'm behind it. I'm training other people to be able to go down and lead down at City Gospel Mission. In fact, tonight I'm going to be doing that with a new couple.
So when you go to a warmer climate years from now because you don't like the winters around here, will you be a Meals on Wheels driver wherever you are?
That's a very good possibility. I mean, the program here allows you to be a sub, which probably will be my next step with them. Instead of having a regular weekly route, I'll say, yeah, put me on the sub list, and if somebody can't make it, and it fits into my schedule, I'll come in and do it because I enjoy doing it. But yeah, the Meals on Wheels is a national program, so I'm sure that they would have that, and that's a very good possibility.
So you've given up on the senior tour.
That it was never even a consideration.
I don't know.
You've all seen me.
Some days out there, but I think that's to Curt's question about your own personal passions. And is there anything that you haven't, that you think you'd really love to do, and you're going to try it?
Well, one of the things that I had the opportunity is I've always liked golfing. One of my first jobs back in probably junior high, I worked at a golf course, a local golf course. And I got my first set of clubs there and tried to play golf. I never was able to get out regularly. It'd always be one of these things like I might be able to go 4 times a year. You can't get any better. You get a few good shots and that gets you to come back. But, but again, a lot of time it was more for the social aspect. I enjoyed being out there. And as long as the other guys didn't mind me hacking away, I had fun. Now I have that opportunity with going out on a regular basis on every Tuesday morning, even during the wintertime when we would go to the simulators. So I would love to be able to get better at golf, feel more confident when I get out there. Yeah, I still love the social thing, but it's kind of nice if you can shoot something less than double bogey.
Give me a call whenever you want to go out. I've got the bug. I've just started playing again, a year and a half ago. And
you're doing great.
Man, I
love it.
Feel so good. But honestly, that does bring up a big question because I think about that versus a volunteer opportunity. And yet these are decisions you got to make. You got to keep that balance that Adam was aiming toward and saying, I really loved it. And I think that helps you be a better volunteer and a better person. You keep growing.
Yeah. No, definitely. You need to take time for yourself. You need to do things you want to do. As you said, I'm also a grandfather. We get to watch our grandson on Mondays. It's a blast. He's a little over 2 years old now, talks, runs around. I was telling somebody else, I love it when my daughter brings him over in the morning. She comes up through the basement, and you can hear him down there going, Grandpa, Grandpa. And it's like, yes.
Isn't it great?
There's purpose.
There it is. There
Great.
it is.
So, as a close, what would be advice that you would give to people about the value of engagement?
I think it's really important that you have a plan before you retire, and however long before that, to know what you're going to be doing. If you don't, you're not going to probably do much. And that's where we get back to this whole thing of that you'll become isolated, you'll become lonely, and everybody knows the stories. Somebody retired, and 6 months later they're dead, and they didn't get a chance to enjoy it. That's why 60, I don't think it's early retirement. I think it's a good time. But I wanted to be sure that I had that opportunity to enjoy. I mean, you work your butt off all throughout your career. You got it now. Hopefully you get the time to really enjoy it and take that time to, enjoy life, enjoy your spouse in a different way, enjoy grandkids if you're lucky to have them, and your own kids. And that's the other thing. I got a daughter and son-in-law that just live around the corner, so that's great. We have another daughter that's about an hour and a half away, and both my wife and I have been talking recently. It's like we really want to be able to be more involved with her also, even though there's some distance there. It's not that far. We need to be conscientious about that and really focus on that part too. So, take time for yourself. Don't overcommit, as I have done in the past, and realize when you have that you need to be able to step back, because if the people you're serving aren't going to get the benefit out of it, then you shouldn't be doing it.
Scott, thank you so much for spending time with us today, and thank you personally for being that guy to get me engaged in various things, which has led to a variety of things. So I thank you very much for you sharing your story and sharing the opportunity of engagement with our listeners. And this was a great talk. I appreciate it.
Thanks for your wisdom. You brought a lot of wisdom this morning. I feel really blessed to be able to be on the recipient end of that. So thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
And thanks for joining us on the Redirect Podcast.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Redirect Podcast. We would like to thank the University of Cincinnati 1819 Innovation Hub for allowing us to record our episodes at the eSports Innovation Lab recording studio. Don't forget to tell your friends about the Redirect Podcast and have them follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Instagram. Want more information? Do you have a question for Curt, Dale, or Adam? Or would you like us to consider a topic that interests you for a future podcast? Send us an email at info@redirect-u.com. Remember, the journey isn't over. It's just redirected. There's purpose in your life. Find it and do something about it. Hey, I've got one more comment. The Redirect Podcast is presented solely for educational and entertainment purposes. We engage in an open, honest conversations about personal growth, life transitions, and the lessons we've learned through our own experiences. While we speak as experts in our own lives, we are not licensed therapists, medical professionals, or certified coaches. The content shared on the Redirect Podcast is not intended to be a substitute for professional advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the guidance of qualified professionals for any physical, mental, or emotional concerns that you may have. We're grateful to share this space with you and hope that our stories inspire reflection and connection. If you're in need of more support, we encourage you to connect with a trusted professional who can help.